Hello everyone and welcome to the NinjaTrader Ecosystem webinar room. Before we get started, I would like to take a moment to test for picture and sound. So if you can hear my voice and see the projection in the room, please type a Y. Thank you everyone for confirming that I am coming in loud and clear. My name is Juanita Archuleta and I work here in the NinjaTrader Denver office. We have a very special event for you today with Gavin Holmes of TradeGuider International. I am going to go ahead and place a poll in the room for you to review. While you fill that out, I would like to mention it is important to understand that there are substantial risks in trading commodity futures contracts and Forex. You should carefully consider whether such trading is suitable for you and will depend on your specific circumstances and financial resources. It is possible to lose all funds deposited with your broker and could even incur losses beyond these amounts. Please inquire at the CFTC for the full risk disclosure or if you have any additional questions. Also, please remember that these webinars are not a solicitation nor a recommendation, but simply educational in nature. This presentation is presented by NinjaTrader LLC, which is the technology company responsible for developing and supporting the NinjaTrader trading software. Any brokerage-related questions should be sent directly to our brokerage team using the brokerage information. Thank you everyone for filling out that poll. The question was, what initially brought you to the NinjaTrader ecosystem site? 26% of you were searching for trading apps and add-ons. 61% were looking for trading education. No one has been looking for programming assistance, and 13% are joining us live for the first time. Thank you everybody for filling out that poll. With new tools added nearly every day, NinjaTrader ecosystem is home to hundreds of apps and services. With new tools you can quickly and easily find the tools or services you're looking for with a simple keyword search. You'll also find information about upcoming webinars in an on-demand video archive using the following link. Also, if you are active on social media to get daily updates of all things NinjaTrader ecosystem, please follow us on Twitter and Facebook. NinjaTrader is always free for advanced charting, strategy backtesting, and trade simulation. To ensure you are on the latest version of NinjaTrader and pick up a free live data trial, please use the following link. Also, if you are interested in purchasing or leasing NinjaTrader, I have included our purchasing and leasing link. And if you are just getting started with NinjaTrader, we offer free live training on a daily basis. You can view a schedule of weekly webinars at the following link. We are very excited for this unique event in which Gavin will demonstrate the TradeGuider Wyckoff VSA Smart Center Pro. This package works in multiple timeframes and in multiple markets to alert you and show you where smart money are positioning their trades in the markets. Thank you again for your attendance. Without further ado, it is my pleasure to welcome to the NinjaTrader ecosystem room, Gavin. Go ahead and take it away, Gavin.
Juanita, thank you very much indeed. And before I get going, first of all, welcome to all our customers. I can see a few people in the room that we obviously recognise. Thanks to Juanita and Tiffany and the team at NinjaTrader for putting this event on. It's a pleasure to be with you. It's 9:20 here in the United Kingdom. I'm broadcasting live from the New Forest National Park, which is on the south coast of England. But I don't have a lot of time, so I want to get pretty much straight to what I want to talk about today. But for all of you that are, who are customers of ours, customers of NinjaTrader, we hope, and I'm going to show you today as quickly as I can, what volume spread analysis is all about. Now, let me just ask all of you a quick question, if I may. How many of you have heard of Richard DeMille Wyckoff, who was a trader from back in the 1920s, actually? Just how many of you actually have heard the name Richard D. Wyckoff? Be very interesting to, right, okay, good. Right, okay, that's good to know. And how many of you have heard of the methodology called volume spread analysis? We use the word Wyckoff because it's connected, as I'm about to show you. But how many of you have heard of that as well? Okay, right, brilliant. That's why you're here. And now I know we had a very big sign up for this event, which is excellent. A lot of people will be viewing a recording. I will be providing you with information to get a copy of my book, my first book, because there's no way in 30 minutes I can show you everything that I want to show you. So I want to first of all read the disclaimer to you because it's already been read, but I think it's incredibly important trading futures, options on futures, and retail off-exchange foreign currency transactions, Forex, involves substantial risk of loss. It's not suitable for all investors. Past performance, whether actual or indicated by historical tests of strategies, is no guarantee of future performance or success. There's a possibility that you may sustain a loss equal to or greater than your entire investment, regardless of which asset class you trade, whether it's equities, options, futures, or Forex. Therefore, you should not invest or risk money that you cannot afford to lose. I take that statement incredibly seriously. I know Ninja Trader do. And the reason that we're telling you that right up front is there are no guarantees in the markets, as there isn't. But what I'm going to show you today is why I wrote this book. Now, I didn't think, I'm an ex-police officer from many years ago with Hampshire Police and the Met Police. And I got into this business over 20 years ago, more by accident than judgment, to be honest. But the reason I wrote this book was because I was taught to trade by someone, unfortunately, who's passed away now, called Tom Williams. Now, I'll ask that question. How many of you have heard of Tom Williams and volume spread analysis? They're both connected, but how many of you have heard of the late Tom Williams, who passed in 2016? And I'm going to introduce, some of you are going to say, no, I understand that. This book, you're all going to get a copy of in this presentation. And I'll show you where you can get it. It's very easy, but there's not just a book, there's a video and there's resources that are completely free of charge to help you to understand what I'm about to show you. This is me, and this is the late Tom Williams. I've done seminars in many, many countries around the world, but I'm not going to dwell on this time that I've got with you about me. This is about teaching you something that will either spark your interest, or you'll say, no, that's a load of rubbish. Which either way, my job, when I was a policeman, and I was given, and my surname's Holmes, like Sherlock Holmes. And by the way, we're not related because he's, of course, not a character. He's a character in a book. But when I would give evidence in court, I would always imagine, when I'm doing what I'm doing now, that you are the jury, and I'm just giving you the information. So when I talk about trading in the shadow of the smart money, it means trading in the footprint on the chart when something happens. I'm going to show you it in the E-mini S&P. I could show you it in other things, but I don't have time. Now, this was an article that was written in Business Insider many years ago, and I still use it. It's in my book as well. And it says, presenting the secret trading strategy from the 1930s, and in fact, it's earlier than that hedge funders don't want you to know about. Now, I'm an asset manager, and my company's based out in Gibraltar for the asset management division. And the interesting point about that statement is it says the word secret. And the first book that I read when I first met Tom Williams was called The Undeclared Secrets That Drive the Stock Market, which was later called Master the Markets. I'm going to tell you right now, and Tom, if he was here, would say the same thing. There are no secrets. You think there are, they're not. It's just people don't know where the information is. And again, I'm not going to read all of this, I don't have time, but this is about Richard Wyckoff, who was a trader and worked at the time when Jesse Livermore was around, some of the famous traders, Otto Kahn, JP Morgan. Some of you will know those legendary investors. But in his 1931 book, The Richard D. Wyckoff Method of Trading and Investing in Stocks, a course of instruction in stock market science and technique, it's out of print and somewhat difficult to find these days, but not impossible. I have a signed copy on my shelf here. But even in 2013, when this was written, many years ago now, so 7 or 8 years ago, hedge fund managers still swear by it. What does that mean? It says that one of the key takeaways from the book is that if you want to succeed, you have to learn to recognize the professionals and what they're doing. And that's what those who follow Wyckoff do. They watch the large operators. I call them smart money. And it talks in this article about how a large operator can manipulate a stock, as it was in those days, manipulate the price up and down. Now, let me be clear. If you read my book and you take the time to read it, it took me 7 years to write, you'll understand that I'm actually not a conspiracy theorist at all. Markets have always moved in this manner. It's the game on Wall Street. There has to be losers as well as winners. And when you're controlling a sizable amount of cash in the markets and you want to take a position, you can't buy on the tops. You've got to buy on the lows when the market proves to you there's fair value. And that's what VSA does, the volume spread analysis. Because where there's money to be made, there are professionals and they're specialists. You know, we talk about lawyers, criminal lawyers, doctors, brain surgeons, bankers, commercial bankers, retail bankers. But where there's money to be made, you will get professionals and specialists. And our job at TradeGuider is to show you the footprint of those specialists. The financial markets have specialists and they know how you think. Now, when I say how you think, what they know is a group or a herd, as was referred to when I first met Tom. He said the herd will do what you think they're going to do. So if they're in a cinema and someone shouts out fire and it's 500 in the cinema and they smell smoke, they're all going to go to the exits. In the financial markets, ironically, you get a similar situation in that someone says, oh, this is a really great buy. It's all over, all these different channels. This stock is going up. It's going to keep going up. And then just as you think it is, it collapses. It happened in Bitcoin quite recently, which I'm not going to get into cryptos here today. We don't have time. But our system works in all markets. But I trade futures, and I've been trading futures for over 20 years. And one of the things I learned was markets are driven by professionals, okay? And in the book written by Wyckoff, which you can still get if you go and look for it, you read about what happened in the 1930s and the 20s and how they used to have something called bucket shops, where they would send out a rumor, they'd say there's something happening. And then when I say the big players who wanted to sell the stock that they were operating in. If you read my book, it's all in there. And Tom taught me that. So I'm going to introduce you now to the smart volume spread analysis technology that we've built into NinjaTrader. It was built into 7, it's built into 8. And we really like the NinjaTrader platform, okay? And I have to say, my technical support guy from California, AJ Robinson, I think you may even be listening, will tell you that he thinks it's one of the best platforms to actually use to trade. It does multiple things. And in fact, I'm sure at the end, if you've got questions, you'll be directed where to go to if you're talking about the platform. But we have plugged in our VSA methodology, which I'm going to try and get to real quick here because I've got a stopwatch and I'm 10 minutes in. But these are the two masters. This was like my second dad. I lost my father in 1999. And I met Tom at almost the same time. And he said to me, and I won't go into the whole story because it's in the book again. He said to me, you'll make a very good trader because you don't know anything about the markets, which was quite an interesting point because it was true. He said, you're going to have no bad habits about financial analysis and chart reading. And on the right is Richard DeMille Wyckoff. And Wyckoff passed away in 1934. He was the editor of Stock Market Technique. And I'm not going to read all of this because you can go and find all of this information. I want to show you some charts. That's really what I know people want to look for. But it's still important to me to give you the background. And Tom, he, again, my mentor, he said, volume's vital in your analysis, which is why the self-regulated exchanges around the world, they don't release true volume until the next day. What is VSA? Volume spread analysis. Well, again, I'm just going to summarize this. Volume spread analysis is a way of analyzing a chart based on the footprint of the smart money. And please keep in mind, If you're typing in chats, I can't see it at the moment because we've got 10 minutes at the end to go through questions. But volume spread analysis, in simple terms, looks at three different things, which I'm about to show you. The most important thing is the volume, which is the activity. And at its core, volumes, I'll call it VSA from now on, is a methodology based on the original works of Wyckoff. And the methodology seeks to establish the cause of the price movement. And the cause is simply the imbalance of supply and demand as the market trades, resulting in strength or weakness in the market being charted. By the way, that isn't a doorbell. That's a trade alert coming from NinjaTrader 8. So don't worry, there's nothing going on at the moment, particularly other than in currencies. But what it does, we look at supply and demand, cause and effect, effort versus result. And we put that into a chart and it paints a picture. And one thing that confused many traders who don't understand this, but for the correct analysis of volume, you need to understand that the recorded volume that you see on your chart, and I know there'll be questions about, does it work in Forex? And do you get real volume in Bitcoin? All of this stuff, the answers will be given, but not in a 30-minute presentation. You have to go and do some research, which I'll show you where you can get that. But volume is only half the story. The other half of the knowledge is found when observing the spread, or don't confuse that with bid-ask spread, or the range of the price bar. And then the most important bit is the closing price, as I'm going to show you. Okay, and I'm going to show you it in the S&P using NinjaTrader 8. So then when I refer to volume spread analysis, there it is. Volume, spread of bar, which is the high and the low. By the way, I know there'll be questions. Does it work in a 1-minute chart? Could it work on a 100-tick chart in NinjaTrader 8 or in NinjaTrader 7? In fact, it does. But I just don't have time to show you all that. But I will do, for all of you and anyone listening to this, a live webinar where you can see this in action, because obviously the markets have now closed. But I'm quite happy to do that and spend my time, because I thoroughly enjoy what I do, which is teaching people. So when I refer to VSA, it's volume, closing price, and spread. But how can volume spread analysis identify the moves of big players? Well, it's simple. And it is. And I had a sticky note, which I've still got when I lived in Chicago for 15 years, where I met my wife, Laura. And I was working very closely with a lot of great traders out there. But volume is activity. That's all you've got to know. It's activity. And there's either low volume, or there's ultra high volume, or there's average volume. It's all relevant, as you're going to see. I'm talking about all of us listening to this, are interested in volume because it tells us the consensus of opinion amongst smart money traders, the big movers. And the spread and close on those price bars tell us. Now, this slide here, because I want to get to charts now, tells you the basics of the Wyckoff method that everything we're going to talk about is based on. Wyckoff studied market action based on volume and price. That was going back when they used to have the ticker tape. When Tom was trading in Beverly Hills, California, they read the ticker tape. And then it was determined where risk and reward were optimal, meaning that's exactly what we look for. Is there a trade here? I did an interview today with a journalist, and I said, when Tom was teaching me to trade, he said, you see something happening on a chart, and it's like getting on a bus, okay? If you're waiting for the number 2 bus and the number 5 turns up, you don't get on the number 5, you get on the number 2 when it arrives. And sometimes it can take time for that to happen. And there's one thing in this business I can tell you for certain: you're paid to be patient. And when you understand the psychology of trading and the underlying reasons smart money do things, you will understand. And it's all in the book, or we've got a YouTube channel. You can go and have a look. But here's the key. What Wyckoff told us years ago was the exchange between weak holders to strong holders, known as the smart money. Now, what I want to do is I want to show you now, I'm going to change over to my NinjaTrader chart, because I'm not going to have time to finish all of this, but I want to show you. But I do want to just check that you can see here today. I've got the E-mini S&P up here. You should all be able to see it. And I want to pay it or really show you why volume is important. Now, I'm assuming, can you all see the chart, first of all? I'm assuming the answer is yes to that. And let me just double check. Yep. Okay, good. Now, there's something on this chart at the bottom of the screen that I call I call it affectionately in some of my webinars, what I call a Yao Ming bar. Now, why do I call it that? When I lived in Chicago, I used to follow the Chicago Bulls and obviously the Bears, because the Bears are obviously football, the Bulls are baseball, basketball. But one of the things I used to follow was the Houston Astros, and they used to have this player called Yao Ming, who was 7'6". And when Tom was teaching me about trading, he would teach me about the importance of what we call ultra high volume. Now here we can see what we call a VSA indicator. And when I put up the smart technology in the software that's built into Ninja, you're going to see here that certain things are flashing and alerting me to what's going on. But what happened here on the E-mini here is we've got what we call trend alignment. There's that reversal, and it happened on a daily chart a few days ago, which is why we've seen higher prices. But most importantly, what this is doing, and it's incredibly powerful, it's scanning all of these different timeframes and at the same time. And what is the most, I know it sounds a cliche, and please forgive me, but the trend is your friend, and actually it is. But there are two very important VSA indicators that appear in our system, which I said you're watching right now, and they're both based on ultra high volume. And one is at the bottom of the market, where you get massive volume, news will be bad, everyone will be telling you everyone's selling, and you get what we call a narrow spread or range on the price bar. We call that bag holding. And now we've just seen here the market attempting to turn before it closed. And we had this indicator, which is a very important one. It's where profit's being taken at the top, where the market's gone up and profit happens. But I want to show you now what's going on. And we'll move all the way now and show you what happened here in this chart. Now, you will see red and green indicators. Okay, that's an indicator. It's not a buy and sell signal. Let me be very clear. We will show you and teach you a system, which is a rules-based system, where you can look at the chart and then say, the criteria to go long or the criteria to go short has been met. But let me be clear. Your skill as a trader is very important. And I never underestimate it, because I've met thousands of traders around the world. And that is an important part of learning this methodology, which is why I'm going to give you the book, so that you can learn and understand what this methodology does. Now, in simple terms, one of the things we look for is what we call trend alignment. And this is what we call Smart Center technology, which we built into Ninja Trader. And it works in multiple timeframes. Now, if you buy our software, we pre-program this into Ninja Trader. You haven't got to do anything. Or if you want to be a bit more advanced and say, actually, I want to do it myself, we have something called Smart Center Pro, which is what I'm using, where you can customize pretty much everything. And the nice thing about the Ninja Trader 8 platform is there's a lot of other functionality in there, which I have to admit, I'm still learning some of it, but I've been very impressed with the stuff I've looked at. Once you see an alert, okay, and the market starts to move, it'll send you, and the software can do this from our plugin, an email, an audible alert, whatever's needed to. And I personally use both. You may have heard the little bell in the background. That's an alert. How many alerts do you get a day? Depends what the markets are doing. If it's a very quiet day, and usually Mondays the markets tend to test, and you don't see big movement necessarily on a Monday, not always, you don't get many alerts. But I'm actually scanning at the moment on my other computer here. I've got about 150 charts in different timeframes, I just can't show you it, but you can see what I've got here. I've got gold, I've got the euro, and I've got the pound. My favourite contract to trade is the 6B, futures wise, I'm talking about, and gold. Those two are where I see a lot of volatility and movement. But the reason we've seen this rally here is not what happened here or here, it's what happened in the background over here. Okay, the background here is driving what's going on down here. Now, this is a really interesting point that many people don't get. They say, well, hold on, the market did come back down into the area where this happened. And this is what we call accumulation. So I'm not going to talk to you about distribution, but there are two words you might want to write down if you want to just start to get to understand this. And accumulation means professional money are buying on depressed prices. Distribution is professional money selling into an up move because they know they've made a profit. And the markets have to work this way. And with volume spread analysis, what we're doing is and the power of this is the scanning capability. Because when I was being taught by Tom, and we've got in the system, I mean, I know people look at it and say, well, there's red and there's green, and what we're looking at here in these indicators is we're looking at the imbalance of supply and demand. We're not saying, oh, yeah, that's a sell signal there, okay? Even though it's red and it tells you, because you've got to read the dialog box, which is the key to it. And the dialog box explains what the indicator is there to show you. But once you then put into place, which you'll get from our website, which is the trading plans that go with this, and there's 4 different types. There's a scalping plan, there's a short-term to medium-term trading plan, and then you've got the investment plans, and they're written, okay? And I wrote them with Tom, and they've proven the test of time. But what I found, meeting thousands of people from all different countries, is everyone is different. I don't think I can say I've met 2 traders who are absolutely identical, do everything the same way at all. And when I was doing this interview today, I talked about the chart reading and the importance of chart reading. And I used an analogy which seemed to make sense. I said, my daughter, Olivia, who's 13 now, she's playing the piano, and she's been learning the piano for some time, and she's actually very good. But then a few weeks ago, because I listened to her playing it, I don't play the piano, I'm not musical. She said, Dad, can you help me with this this particular this chord or whatever it's called? And I looked, I said, well, no, I don't know how to do that. I don't know how to read it. And then I thought, I'm going to try something. I said, well, come here a second. I'm about to take a trade in this contract. Here's the screen. Can you tell me what I should do? Well, she said, well, no, I don't know how to do that. I said, exactly. But if you're taught, and her piano teacher is very good, then you get it. And I was lucky and blessed to be taught by a genius. And that was important to me. So going back to these different instruments, and we've only got a few on here, but I'm scanning a lot more. And I'm going to take some questions in the next 5 minutes, because I think I've probably got another 5 to 10 minutes, and I don't want to overrun the time because it's important not to do so. But what I will say is this: if you want to find out what volume spread analysis is, and then if you've got a pen and paper, or you maybe Juanita can put it into the chat area, it's basically volumespreadanalysis.com is the background to all of this. So it's simple. It's volumespreadanalysis.com. And the TradeGuider website, where we've got my book and the free resources. And it talks about our relationship there with NinjaTrader and the ecosystem, because we're now, as many of you will know, on the ecosystem NinjaTrader site. And there's lots of different types of analysis tools on there. But volume spread analysis, I always felt was missing, and it's no longer missing. It's there, and hence we're doing this webinar. We've had this plan for a few months. And if you start to understand the importance. And let me go through to a couple of things. I'm just going to take a couple of questions. Just bear with me. Okay, right, there we go. So thank you, Juanita. I appreciate that. I'm just gonna before I get to, because there's going to be lots of questions, so I'm going to come back to the chat area. But before I do, I want to talk about and finish off with, if I may, what the Wyckoff method is actually about when it comes to analysing accumulation and distribution. And does the VSA method work in all markets and all timeframes? Yes, it does. Anywhere there's a liquid market or even illiquid, as long as you can get volume, which of course all good platforms provide, it does. So the key points of trading with this method is, I always, and this is personal, but you can adapt this. I look at the big picture and I start with a weekly, a daily, and even when I'm trading futures intraday or trading other instruments, Forex, I break it down into different timeframes. I always look for what I call the massive volume bars. Very important. And if you go and look at charts, and the one that you'll see at volumespreadanalysis.com is the chart, it's a stock chart of British Petroleum, BP, back in 2010. And I was presenting at the Massachusetts Institute of Technology. And I got a phone call from Tom the night before I was presenting. And he said, Gavin, have you seen the news about BP? And I said, yeah. I said, they're in serious trouble. He said, no, professional money are buying. And then I said, no. I said, and I didn't believe my own chart. I said, that there's no way. But you go and look. If you don't believe that volume's important, go and look at what that chart says. And there are many others that we can show you, but that's just one example. And then you identify the trend. You look at support and resistance, what I call a change in behavior in the market conditions, which means it's been going down. Now it's starting to go up. And we look for what we call accumulation and distribution. And the most important thing, which again is in my book, is what we call trigger numbers. And this is how the phases of the market are. At the moment, we're at the top, we're up here, we're over here in the stock markets around the world. And yet that's despite a pandemic. So remember how smart money operates. They stop the trend, they build the cause, they test the market, and then you get you get a trend. And the word testing, by the way, is one of the most important things I learned to go long. And there's another thing on the way down, which we call no demand. And that's how it works. You get accumulation on bad news. The market's marked up. It's reaccumulated. Then some bad news comes out, as happened in BP. Market collapses. Then they buy it back. And that is how these markets work. Right, I've got about 10, 15 seconds before I'm going to take questions. But those are the websites. TradeGuider.com is where you can get a copy of my book with our compliments. But if you want to get some background information about what this is all about, because again, 30 minutes is, I can't believe it's gone already, but there's the alarm going off. You've done your 30. And now what I'll do, and Juanita, if there's anything that any questions you've seen or whatever, I'm very happy to answer them. I'll put my chat window up, but those are the two places where you can go. So please do let me now see if there's any questions, and there is. Let's just put that up there. Okay. Right. Okay. All right. So there is quite a lot of questions that I've missed. So I'm going to just do a few of these before I hand it back to Anita. And it's the good question there that I'm just going through them. Not sure how volume can work on Forex. Would like to hear, since Forex has no centralized pricing. Are they trying to put a circle through a square? No. Actually, again, there's a very, very good article that was written about the proxy for tick volume, which we do get in Forex, and exchange traded volume. Now I trade the two together. So I'm looking at the I trade with the CME through NinjaTrader, but I also look at spot Forex at the same time. And you do actually get what we call tick volume. And there's a very interesting article which was written where they studied it, and they said actually tick volume is an incredibly good way to look at these markets. And when I'm hoping we'll do another one of these webinars where we can show that. Okay, sorry, I've missed a lot of the questions, but that's fine for the moment. Let me just go through the ones. Okay, that's good. Okay, you just finished my book. Okay, great. Okay, let's just scroll down. Okay, let me just see. Okay, a question. Hi, Anil. If the price is in downtrend and we get a climactic bar, and if the price goes up with no demand, then should we go short again? The question, no, that's a very good question. And obviously, I know you've followed us. If you've got a downtrend and you get a climactic, what we call climactic, what I mean by that is the big volume bar on the down move, and the market goes up on a no demand, which is low volume. And then very often, if that climactic bar is strong, they will test it. Not once, I say they, the smart money, not once, not twice, sometimes 3 or 4 times. And then I always wait for the market to break the top of that bar where you've seen that climactic, and we're talking on a down move here. And then that's where I'd look to buy. But you don't want to be short against a climactic down bar. It's dangerous. You've got to wait. Okay, let me just have a quick look here on the rest of the questions. In your book, you talked about example bottom reversal, SOS 78, which I've done. Yeah, I've talked about that. And in fact, that's what we saw in the S&P. What are the differences? Okay, because you've got different numbers. I can answer that question very easily. It's the code that Tom wrote, which is very subtle, the way it's done. And I asked him this very question. I said, why have we got 15 different examples? And it's not fit. If you go, Robert, to just so you know quickly, to TradeGuider.com, the front page, don't go to the store page, go to just register there and you'll be able to get the book for nothing. You don't have to pay $50 at all. So you just go there. But let me just talk quickly, if I may, about the different types of indicator numbers, because we have no demand and we have end of a rising market indicators, and we have more than one. And the reason is it's the code. It's the code. And the way it was explained to me, and I'm just about to wrap this up, but the way it was explained to me by Tom, he said, if you look at an oak tree, Gav, he said, you're going to look at an oak tree and you put 2 oak trees and they're in the garden. They look the same, right? I said, well, they're oak trees. He said, now you take the leaf off each different tree and now you put the leaf underneath a microscope and you're going to find that the leaf is completely, it's not different, but it's got a different structure. And it's the same with the indicators. So I don't think I'm pretty much out of time, I think. Juanita, is there any other questions that I need to answer? Or are we good?
You know, I think we did really good. For anyone whose question was not answered, I would highly recommend to reach out to Gavin. I will place the contact form in the room again. You know, if you have any more questions, you need assistance with downloading the book. I know someone said they were having trouble downloading it, that it was requesting $50 to download it. So I'm not really positive on that, but you could go ahead and reach out to him and get some help with that.
Yeah, we need to, just so you know, I've just seen Robert's comment in the chat area, and that's been resolved straight away. He has got the access to the book, and it's no charge, as I said.
Sounds good. I think we got everything. I'm going to leave the room open just for about like 2 minutes here for people who want to grab the link to TradeGuider directly, and then as well to the volumespreadanalysis.com. All the contact form and that information is going to be, you know, right on the bottom of the chat there, so that it's easier for everybody to go ahead and grab that information.
Brilliant. Thank you, Juanita, for your time today. I appreciate it. And by the way, for those of you who've logged in on that and it just says the first 4 chapters, don't worry. Anyone that goes into the database from here will send you the full book. I think it does have initially the first 4, and that's correct, but we will send you the full book, so don't worry about that. To everyone at Ninja Trader, thank you very much indeed. I think it's been a great event, enjoyed it. And yeah, and we need to question, If someone wants to see the recording of this, how could they access it? Especially our customers who've told me that they weren't able, they're not going to be able to be here live today because it's obviously got the 4th of July weekend coming up. How do they do that?
Perfect question. First, I just want to give you a special thank you, Gavin, for this great presentation. Everyone in attendance is going to receive an on-demand recording of today's event, so just keep an eye out for that email. NinjaTrader Ecosystem is pleased to sponsor these weekly vendor events as a value-added service for our clients. If you find value in them, we will hope that you attend them on a regular basis. I just placed a direct link to our NinjaTrader Ecosystem webinar page, which is where you can find the recording once it's up tomorrow. Also, Gavin, I will be following up with you directly to provide that link so that you can send it out to your users. And then we would just like to remind everyone the information provided in this was that of TradeGuider International and not of NinjaTraders. All information was for educational purposes and should not be construed as trading advice. Again, we do appreciate the time you spend with us. Enjoy the rest of your day, and we hope to see you in future webinars. Happy trading from everyone here at the NinjaTrader Ecosystem team.